Hello, my name is Scott Ball and I'm a product manager here in Redlands, California. Today's seminar will cover these topics regarding ArcGIS maps for Power BI, getting serious with map visualization, basic spatial analysis, and using demographic data to get more out of your maps. This seminar will include a discussion of the topics and a few hands-on software demonstrations. So let's get into our first topic, getting serious with map visualization. Maps help us see our data in a new way. Patterns and relationships that are not observable in tables and other visualizations become easy to see when mapped. ArcGIS Maps for Power BI is an upgrade over existing map visuals in Power BI while remaining very easy and simple to use. In addition to simple points on a map and filled maps, the ArcGIS Maps visual allows for more powerful visualization techniques, such as bivariate mapping using size and color, aggregating locations by clustering or heat mapping to show high-level patterns, and adjusting the binning algorithms to highlight the important parts of a data set. Before getting to those advanced topics, let's take a look at the basics. Like other visuals in Power BI, you will use field wells to interact with the map visual. Let's take a look at what they do. To add locations to the map, you can use the location field well or the latitude and longitude field wells. Use the location field well when you have addresses or standard geographic boundaries, such as states, counties, or zip codes. The location field well has some smarts behind it, and it tries to automatically figure out what you throw at it. But you can help it out by using the Power BI data modeling tools to add the right data category to the field. In the example on the left, I added a street address field to the location field well, and I got a point location on my map. On the right, I added a field with zip code location to the location field well, and you can see it added a polygon. The location field well knows the difference between the two and shows the correct shape on the map. You can also add locations to the map using the latitude and longitude field wells. These fields will be provided by your GIS person, or they may be included in the data set you're working with. If you have them, it's best to use them, as the map will perform faster and you'll be able to add more points. You can use the size and color field wells to change the look of your data on the map. The size field well can be used with numerical data fields, and it adjusts the size of locations visualized as points. Small data values will be shown by small circles, and large data values will be represented by large circles. As you can see on the screen, I've sized my store locations by sales volume so I can quickly see high and low performing stores. If you want to show differences in locations using color, you can use the color field well. You can use numerical or categorical data to shade points or areas. Numerical data will result in a color ramp showing low values using light colors and high values using dark colors. An example would be customer locations shaded by the value of their policy. You could also group locations together by using the same color for shared text attributes. In the map on the right, I've used the policy type field in my data to show auto policies in red, home policies in blue, and commercial policies in green. You can create time animations using the time field well. If you put a date field into the time field well, the map visual will group your location data into time bins and add a time slider to the visual. You can manually scrub forward and backward through time. You can use the handles to expand the range and show multiple bins at one time, or use the play button to animate your selection over time. So those are the basics for field wells. Let's take a look at how they work in practice by switching over to Power BI. For the demos today, we're going to be looking at a fictional Florida insurance company that is currently using Power BI. They have their customer information loaded up into fields. Information like policy value, policy type, and customer address. FACO is really interested in using maps so they can start to make some better decisions around where they're spending money on advertising and where they're hiring adjusters. So let's add a map and see if we can help them out. To get my customers on the map, I just drag the address field into the location field well. I should note that I've already combined all of my street location information into one field to make it easier to process. Mapping 123 Main Street without a city, state, or zip code isn't going to get me very far. So as you can see, as we look around the map, many of the points are overlapping, and it's hard to know if there are many or few points in one place. When you have a lot of points on the map, it can be useful to aggregate features together. So let's take a look at how we can do that. So in addition to the basic field controls that I've introduced to you earlier, you can also enter edit mode on the map to gain access to advanced options to fine-tune the look and feel of your map. You'll notice I have more options along the toolbar at the top of the map. One option here is to change the theme of the map. So let's take a look at the map themes I have available. Right now, I only have 3 options available because I'm only using the location field well. If there were other field wells being used, I'd have more map themes options. So let's take a look at heat maps and clusters. Both will aggregate our customer locations and tell us where we have concentrations of policyholders. As I drill in, the heat map adjusts to show me relevant information for the current scale. We can use this information to help us advertise in the place that we don't have existing accounts, or add adjusters in the places where there are a lot of customers. In addition to aggregating features together, we can also go the other way and add more detail to each location. For example, I can show the policy value for each of our customers by dragging the policy value field into the size field well. Now each point shows the relative value of the account, small circles being small accounts and large circles being large accounts. If I want to add even more information to the map, I can add the policy type field to the color field well. As I hover over the points, I can see that blue circles represent home accounts, red circles represent car accounts, and green circles represent commercial accounts. So I can quickly glance at the map and see the type of policy for each customer. Now the map is showing the location of each policyholder, what type of policy it is, and the relative value of that policy. That's a lot of information. So let's switch back to the presentation and review what we've learned. So in review, we learned how to add data to the map. We learned how to use clustering to aggregate data points to see patterns. We learned how to do bivariate mapping with the size and color field wells. Next up, let's learn how to do some spatial analysis. Most BI visuals rely on attributes to link data together for analysis. While this can be very powerful, it has limitations. For example, summarization relies on common values in the attribute table you see here, values like northwest and southeast. Sandy and Ellen can be grouped together to summarize northwest sales, while Jim and Pat can be grouped to show sales for the southeast. ArcGIS maps allow you to perform spatial selections to analyze your data in a new way. Analyze your data by where they are or what they're in proximity to. Multi-select allows you to draw a box on the map and select the locations inside the box. The records don't have to have any attributes in common, yet they can be part of the same spatial selection due to their proximity to each other. You can also make spatial selections based on proximity to a location. The red pin on the map is in the Sulligent, Alabama area. The purple area, created by our drive time tool, shows how far you could drive in any direction in 15 minutes. The calculated drive time area can be used to make a selection. In this example, Ellen is the only sales rep within 15 minutes of Sulligent. Another way to make spatial selections is by using reference layers. Reference layers are hosted by Esri and provide additional geographic information about an area. You can use Esri-created demographic reference layers or any other publicly shared layers on our ArcGIS content platform. Reference layers can show common geographic boundaries, such as in this example, where Marion County, Alabama is shown in blue. When used to make a spatial selection, the Marion County area would select Sandy, the one sales rep that lives within the county. So let's jump back over to Power BI and take a look. To start looking at spatial relationships, we will need to get familiar with the spatial selection tools on the map. I'm currently in individual selection mode, meaning I can select one location at a time. If I want to select multiple locations, I need to switch to multi-select mode. Using multi-select mode, I can draw a box on the map to select multiple locations. There's also a third mode, a reference layer select mode, but I don't have a reference layer yet, so we'll come back to that one. In this map, I've added red pins to show where our insurance adjusters are located around the state. I want to take a look to see if their load is being balanced among existing customers. We can do this using the drive time tool, which is inside the edit mode. We can see how much of the state can be covered by our existing adjusters by using the drive times feature. If we create drive times of about an hour, we can see which parts of the state are adequately covered and which ones aren't. So let's create some drive times around those existing adjuster locations. I'll make a selection for my Tampa adjuster, my Port St. Lucie adjuster, and my Miami adjuster. I want to set my distance to about an hour and tell it OK. Things look pretty good on first glance, but let's take a look at the number of customers in each adjuster's area. Now we need to use that third selection mode to use the drive times as selection areas. So let's switch to that now. We can see how many policies each adjuster is expected to cover by using the drive time area as a selection tool. We can see that the Tampa adjuster is responsible for about 92 customers. If we click on the Port St. Lucie drive time area, that's about 72 customers. If we select the Miami adjuster, that's actually 152 addresses. We can see that the Miami adjusters are responsible for a lot more customers than the others, and we don't really want to have things quite so imbalanced. So let's take a look at what we can do about it. We have a number of customers up here in the West Palm Beach area, so let's see what would happen if we would add an adjuster there. So let's go back into edit mode. Let's clear out our drive times, and let's go add a new pin in the West Palm Beach area. Now if we check the drive time areas, we're going to see what happens when we add the new adjuster into West Palm Beach. So let's make our selections here on the east coast of Florida. Let's select our West Palm Beach adjuster. Let's select our Miami adjuster. And let's select our Port St. Lucie adjuster. Let's check drive times for 60 minutes. And let's go back to the report so we can see the customer selections. Now if we check the drive time areas, we see that the adjuster in this West Palm Beach area could be responsible for about 140 customers. If we look at our Miami adjuster again, we see it's about 152 customers. We can see that by adding this new adjuster in West Palm Beach, it could really help balance out some of the load. Using this information could help us put the right people in the right places to help our customers when they need us the most. So let's go back to the PowerPoint and recap. So let's review. We just learned how to use the multi-select tool to filter your BI data. We learned how to add persistent pins for your important locations. You also learned how to use drive time areas to make selections on your report. Let's move on to our final topic, which is adding demographic data. Getting good data is hard, and processing it for easy use is even harder. Esri creates content in-house and partners with content providers to provide access to a wealth of data about the world around us. We expose this information in ArcGIS maps in easy-to-use ways such as demographic reference layers and infographics. Reference layers provide a glanceable view into the characteristics of the people that live in an area. We provide layers that show characteristics such as average household income, diversity index, population density, and more. Demographic reference layers are dynamic, showing you more detail as you zoom in and less detail as you zoom out. Clicking on a reference layer will also provide detailed information about that area. For those of you who are unfamiliar with what infographics are, they are quick visual indicators that provide glanceable, easy-to-understand information. Our infographics are based on the same underlying data the demographic reference layers are built from, but the infographics cards provide granular details. Whereas you can only add one reference layer per map, you can add many infographics cards, allowing for a quick look into the wide-ranging characteristics of an area. For example, I'm currently showing total population, median disposable income by age bracket, and the diversity index for the greater Long Beach area in California. By default, the cards will give you information about the entire area you are viewing, updating as you pan and zoom around the map. You can investigate your locations more closely by selecting them, which will change the cards to show information about the area immediately surrounding your selections. You'll also get a comparison between the local area around the selection and a larger area, such as a country or state. Currently, demographic content is US-based, but we have plans to allow users to access global layers in the future. So let's take a look at how to add infographics to your map. Back in Florida, our insurance company is looking to expand. There are a few approaches we can use to look for new customers using this new demographic information. The first approach is that we can look for areas of high population where we have a small customer base, where a little advertising budget may go a long way. We can look at population using Esri's demographic reference layers. Let's jump into edit mode and add a population layer. We can see that the yellow areas have lower population density, and the orange areas have a higher population density. And as I zoom in, you can see that I get more detail the closer that I get. I can start to see that in the areas north of Miami, I have more customers, but to the areas south, places with high population density such as Coral Gables, I have fewer customers. It might make sense to put up some billboards along the roads in this area. So let's switch to the Esri Streets base map to help us figure out which streets we want to target. We can see that there are a number of major roads we could advertise on to drum up new business, such as Palmetto Expressway, Florida Turnpike, or even Dixie Highway. By using the Esri Streets base map, the population density reference layer, and our Power BI customer data, we suddenly have a lot more information to make a more informed decision on how to grow the business. So that's one approach. Another approach is to not focus on where people are today, but where they are projected to be in the next few years. We'd like to get into the hot areas before they get ridiculously expensive. So I'm going to switch to a projected growth reference layer. Because of the light green shading in Miami, we can see that there isn't much projected growth there. But if I look around the state, I can see some dark green areas on the Gulf Coast, which indicate these areas are expected to see population growth. We can also use infographics to gain more information about the people who live in these areas. Infographics pair nicely with demographics layers. Demographic layers provide the glanceable visual patterns, while infographics provide more detailed numbers. For example, if I go into the infographics tool, I can add population and income information, such as total population and per capita income. I can reorder these cards by grabbing the grab handle, and as I move the map around, I get updates showing detailed information about the specific area that I'm looking at. We can see that the area around Sarasota and Port Charlotte have per capita incomes in the high 20s, low 30s. But as we go further south, we can see the per capita income levels rise, so it may be more lucrative to target this area for long-term investment. So that gives you a quick look at what can be done with demographics inside the ArcGIS map visual. Let's review. In that demo, we learned that demographics can help put BI data into context. We learned that demographic reference layers can provide visual patterns at multiple scales. We also learned that infographics can provide granular quantitative information about the people that live in a place. Before we go, I'd like to point you to a few resources. To start using the visual right away, download Power BI from Microsoft. Our visual is included in the box. To learn more, check out the product page and the documentation site to get the very latest information about ArcGIS maps for Power BI. I hope you enjoyed today's seminar. On behalf of everyone at Esri, I'd like to thank you for watching.